All right. So today I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Today I kind of wanted to talk about my experience playing Genshin Impact and kind of talk about some of the things that I've learned along the way that might help people out in the future. So I beat the main story of Genshin Impact in 21 days as a new player, and I beat floor 12-3 in 30 days on day 29 actually. Um, with 27 stars, 1 star higher than my chat predicted. So it's not 36 stars, but from coming from nothing as a new player, I think that's a huge accomplishment. So I want to try to share some of the things that I used or learned along the way, so that whether you're an old Genshin player or a new Genshin player, maybe it'll help you overcome some of the hurdles that the game throws at you if you don't understand. So first, um, the best piece of advice I can give you as a new player is just to explore. And uh, the best way to do that is to use the Genshin map. Genshin Impact on its own website has an interactive map that you can use to track your progress in the game. So on the map, you can see I have marked right every single chest accessible in the game. And so at all times, I can know where I'm at and where I need to go and what kind of characters I might need to do whatever puzzles. There's a few that are story locked. So like this one perhaps I haven't marked off because it's available during an Archon quest specifically. So I'm sure I've gotten that, but I was unsure. So this one I may have just not marked off, but like I said, some of these are story locked, so you can't do them until you progress. But a lot of them, especially in the earlier areas, you can just walk to and go and get. And when you're low AR, that's probably like the best way to get your adventure rank up so that you can progress and enjoy the rest of the story more. You can refer to this map. Every one of these resources, with a few exceptions, is literally on the Hoyo Lab website. And I recommend using that as much as possible. But as you can see on the left, anything you're ever going to need in the game, it's going to have all the waypoints. It's going to have all of um, the statue spirits, and all the specific items that you're going to need for each and every region. And then if I reset this, right, my map is empty. And let's say I need an item. Let's say I need the wind wheel for the traveler, right? If I turn on the wind wheel for the traveler, it'll tell me on the map where every single wind wheel I can collect in the whole game is. Okay? So that's really useful to give you an idea of where you need to be teleporting or where you need to be going. In game, it has you have, you can select an item you need from your inventory, and it'll give you like a radius of where you can go collect. But this map will tell you exactly where they are. So the radius is helpful, to keep you on track, but this will help you find them much, much faster. So I can't thank the map and the dev team for making this as much as possible, because it is incredibly helpful. There's also some weapons that are good free-to-play options that require you to fish. So you can use this to find the fishing holes and the specific fish that you might need. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now that if you are fishing, that when you get to Inazuma, there's one fish right here that only spawns at night and only spawns every 3 days. Fish reset every 3 days in your world. And then the other fish is right here. This is for Farina's weapon, the platinum maintenance mech fish. They only spawn there, and they only spawn every 3 days. So trying to come and find some of these rare fish that you're going to need for some of those weapons is really handy. And using this to farm, even enemies. You can farm in game. It'll give you a 12-hour cooldown once you've found all the ones that you have found. But I needed a lot of nectar, so I can find the whopping flowers, and it'll tell me where every single one is on the map. And then sometimes if I click the specific one, uh, a kind individual who did it first will just tell you to interact with a flower, and then they'll show up. So every single one of the chests usually has a puzzle description, so that it's not a complete spoiler. You can still solve it yourself. But it is incredibly helpful to give you an idea of where you're going, especially when there's multiple layers on a map. So my second recommendation is to always do your daily Hoyoverse check-in. Um, you can get, I think, 60 Prima Gems a month just for checking in. Right? I'm gonna get 20 here today. And then it'll show up in your mail, in your game. And you'll be able to just pull that out and have access to that as soon as you return. The next piece of advice I have is I didn't know what characters I should be using, and so I started looking up guides, and they can be complicated at first. So my recommendation is just when you start pulling on your account, or if you've already pulled on your account and you don't really know who or what to do with your characters, but you like them. For the Abyss, you have to have 2 teams. So my recommendation, if you're new, is just to find a character you really like, because every character can be used, right? Even the worst characters in the game have ways that they can be the most cracked characters that exist. So what you can do is, once you find your 1 or 2 characters that you really like, is you can start trying to build around them. And so I've been using, I think, mostly Game 8 to look at character guides. They're pretty in-depth. It'll have the character. It'll tell you how good they are typically, for what their unique category is. And then it'll tell you every mat you need material, and it'll tell you like what kind of weapons are good, who might be good on their team, and it'll tell you what kind of artifacts you need on the character. It'll also tell you if your character needs any recharge, what artifacts and where to get them. So I like this website. At the very bottom, it has all the characters you could click. Tells you how to use the character. And if you see someone you like, you can also, just click on them and see what they might need as well. There are characters that you can buy every few months from the Star Glitter Exchange in your game. They are consistent and they change every month. So if there's a certain character you want, or you want a constellation on, save your Star Glitter. Don't just spend it recklessly. And you can get some of the best characters in the game for free just by saving your Star Glitter from your random 4-star pulls. The next recommendation is something I didn't know about before. This is the Genshin Impact Enhancement Progression Calculator. So you can look at your characters in the game that you have or that you don't have even, and you can say, I really want to build this character. And so once you go to Game 8, you can figure out what kind of equipment they need, right? And you can figure out what of the skills is the priority to upgrade. And then without it being super complicated at all, you can just put in what you want to get them to. Most characters only need to be level 80. Level 90, probably for Chevreuse, because she's going to be scaling off of HP. And these things you'll figure out once you look up your individual characters. But characters who will scale off HP or Elemental Mastery usually need to be level 90, because they want to squeeze just as much value out of their stats as possible, especially if I'm using a weapon that doesn't help that stat. However, Not super something to worry about right now, but it is incredibly helpful. I didn't have this, and so what I was using, because I didn't know about it, was a spreadsheet. Actually, I made a spreadsheet, and it took me several hours um, after stream every single day to build my characters. And so what I would do is I wrote down all the things I needed to get. I wrote down every level of those things. There's usually a common, an uncommon, a rare, epic, and a legendary of each item, and they'll either be found in the wild that you just pick up, they'll either be dropped by enemies, or they'll have to be farmed in a domain, right? And so I just shortened a lot of these things, and I said who I needed them for if they didn't have a common variant. And so I did this, and it was helpful for me. However, like I said, the calculator will do all this work for you. So I think it's important to know what your characters need. Right here, for instance, right? Today I'm going to be building Vareset, Yansan, Chevrus, and Zhengling. So I'm going to be working on fishing for the catch to get more refinements. And then I labeled what I would want to at least get their burst to if I can. Sorry, not their burst, their any of their skills. So at skill level 6 for attack, skill, or burst, you will need a weekly boss drop to get to skill level 7. So I think 6 is a good place to stop, unless you need to upgrade further. But I think that's a good benchmark for like starting on your team. And we only recommend working on prioritizing the thing you need the most. So I've listed here the things I need the most. Varessa is going to be my DPS on this team, so she needs all 3. Razor, for instance, is a greedy on-fielder, so he also needed his attack up. But most characters will just need their skill, and some characters will just need their burst. But don't worry too much about skills early on. This is more just like when you get to endgame and you're starting to think about who you want to challenge with in the Abyss, or if you just want your team to perform a little bit better. You could definitely go through the game just smashing everything, because everything can probably clear the game with no problem. But once you start wanting to build teams and getting work done faster and more efficiently, I definitely recommend trying to figure out who's going to work well together and with what. So instead of having to use the Excel sheet, like I said, we can just use this calculator. And on the calculator, you can list how high you want to bring your weapons up to. 70 is, I think, a good benchmark. 80, I think you should stay at 80 for both characters and for weapons, unless you need just a little bit extra, especially early on. Because from 80 to 90, it's like almost the same amount of money and EXP books as it is from 1 to 80. So it's as if you're building 2 characters to level 80. So only for the characters you really, really need to have.